Friends and enemies, welcome back. Canadian Bitcoiners Podcast, Mighty CBP number 204. My name's Joey. That's Len. We're 1 minute late because I didn't tell Len that we were using a different StreamYard room today since I set the stream up a little early. Sometimes it doesn't like it when you set the stream up more than 24 hours in advance. I don't know if you've noticed that, but even just now I had to reset up the Rumble stream because it canceled it. Yeah, canceled it. So there you go. What's going on? How are you?
Same old, Joey. The snow is starting to melt, which is nice. The temperature finally got above freezing for the first time since we had a big snowstorm about a week and change ago. So it's good to see some of the snow just disappear. It's wonderful. Spring is around the corner. We're about a month away, a little bit less than it at the time of recording. So, it may be time, Joey, we do competing streams.
You want to cross streams?
What's that?
You want to cross streams?
In the world of Ghostbusters, that's definitely no. In other worlds, it might be a good thing. You can tap heads, you can do whatever. But we won't go. How are you, buddy?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Busy day today at work. Busy day with the little one, but all good, all the same. Maybe let's do the ads. We got a big show tonight. We got obviously competing interests here for the Francophone listeners and viewers. You have a debate starting at 8:00. Carney versus the world, basically, over on, I think CBC is running it or CPAC, one of the two. So that should be interesting. But we also have lots to talk about here. So we'll get into the ads. EasyDNS is the flagship sponsor. You guys know Mark. You love Mark. He's been ripping for us on the website side for the better part of 2 years now, if not longer. And he's got everything you need when it comes to Bitcoin and virtual private servers and domain registry. All that stuff is on board there. Not to mention that when you sign up for a website or port a website over, you get the domain share suite of security, which is sick. You've seen tons of stories over the last year or so, maybe even longer than that, about all these different spoofs and email hacks and all this other stuff where they're kind of these nefarious actors are using your website suffix to fake emails to people and get their information and get their Bitcoin, get their private keys, blah, blah, blah. You don't have to worry about any of that with Mark. Virtual private server stuff, as I always say, BTC Pay server, Nostr relays, Bitcoin nodes, you know, whatever you want to do, you can do it there. Go sign up. CBP Media is the code, 50% off your first round of buys. And of course, Mark in the chat here most Mondays. So if you ever need tech support, go right to the source. Not too many places you can do that. You got to love that.
There is a Mark in the chat, but it's not the Mark you're just...
not today. Not yet, anyway. We'll see. It's still early. Who's the other sponsor?
Well, you know what? Somebody's saying in the chat, buy the fucking dip. And that's a good segue to the next sponsor is Bull Bitcoin. I don't know what the price is. I'm looking at Moscow time. It doesn't seem like much of a dip to me.
It's like 91, I think. It's like 91.
That's whatever. It's still quite a bit, if you ask me. But still, I'm buying. I'm not selling. But people may want to sell. But either way, Bull Bitcoin is the one you want to buy and sell your Bitcoin to. So be happy to take it on-chain, Lightning, whatever you want. Last I checked, fees were low. And fees, I think, are still relatively low. So do your on-chain buys right now. Bull Bitcoin will give it to you even on Lightning if you want. So you may want to start learning how to use Lightning and start stacking on there because there may be a point in time when the fees are going to be high. And you know what? You got to have a big stack on your Lightning wallet. Also, what you could do with Bull Bitcoin, aside from just buying and selling on-chain and Lightning, is you could also sell your Bitcoin and you could use that to pay your bills. Like there may be some delinquent Christmas card bills. There may be some out there. I don't know.
It's almost March. People still not paying their Christmas bills.
Christmas trees are still up in some places, so you never know. So you could use whatever bill you have to pay, you could use your Bitcoin to pay for that. Also, you can't spend your Bitcoin, at least here in Canada. In other parts of the world, like maybe El Salvador, you can, but in Canada, you can't. You can't go to a merchant and start spending your Bitcoin. Just they don't accept it. But one way you could do it, you could buy gift cards. And well, Bull Bitcoin has these gift cards that you can buy with your Bitcoin. And you can start spending that in the real world. That's so cool. So you can go to Home Depot or whatever and use indirectly use your Bitcoin to make the buy. So check them out. If you haven't opened an account, do that. Our promo codes or our referral links below. And $21 will be added to your account once you provide the necessary information and fund your account. Check them out.
Can't beat it. Housekeeping first and foremost. I was on Why Are We Bullish last week on Friday with two friends of the show, D and Pablo, and it was hosted by Nathan, who runs Bitcoin Mentors. So that was a great show. We had a lot of fun. Some whiskey was consumed, some great commentary. I thought really that Pablo hit one out of the park, and I had a couple of people who are not normal Why Are We Bullish watchers message me and just say that Pablo's comment about this cycle seeing the middle fall out was as a banger comment. There is no more reasonable, rational thinking man's argument to be in anything besides Bitcoin or gambling. There is no in between. There is no fake utility. There is no central banks are using XRP. Only the stupid people, the 70 IQers think that. But thinking people now have realized that there's only two options here. You're either at the casino or you're in the hardest asset in the world. So I really enjoyed that. I want to give a shout out.
Option. The casino isn't an option. That's you're rolling the dice. You never know.
That's the only thing people are doing now. They're either rolling the dice or they're in the hardest asset. There is no in between. And then I want to give a shout out to two like standard, like frequent, I guess, fans and friends of the show. One is Paulie Tremonte, who's not in the chat today, but you can catch him on Twitter. I think he's at just Paulie Tremonte on Twitter. Did the High Hash Rate podcast. I had never heard Paulie speak before. That was his first podcast appearance. Mike, Dan, and him did a great hour and a half. There's Paulie in the chat. Did a great hour and a half or so. I listened to the whole thing. It was really good. A lot of commentary about just what it's like to be a Canadian right now and the Bitcoin mission up here. Outstanding. And then obviously, as well, Boomer on the Why Bitcoin podcast with friend of the show, Sly Goomba. Another
he was
great
also
episode.
On the Bugle Weekly.
Was he?
Yes.
Wow.
He was doing a large segment on the 40-hour per week consumption of podcasts. He's a big proponent of that. I didn't realize how in depth he is. Going from meeting to meeting, earphones are on, listening.
At 6x, you can get a whole hour in between your meetings.
And if you're listening to it, I forget what Speedy's listening to it, like a 2x or 3x, whatever it is, you're able to consume a lot more in a shorter period of time. The compression is wonderful. I like that. Those guys are awesome. The Bugle Weekly. They're a funny bunch of guys. Couple of guys.
Boomer's using his name now, so I'll just mention that he got a shout out from Scott. I mean, Scott knows him as Corey, and he got a shout out from Scott Wolf last week during the interview about the Ottawa meetup scene. And I think that's a good sign, man, for Scott, who lives out in London. I think in London, maybe he lives in Toronto. Sorry, for him to be doing that kind of work on the coalition side and know about what's going on in Ottawa speaks volumes about what Boomer's doing. So he
was known as the broken ruler on Bugle Weekly podcast.
Like you can't beat this kind of enthusiasm from the community. I don't think it's outstanding. Like I'm proud to call these guys friends, and I'm proud that they're part of this community, and I'm proud to be available to them the same way that I know they've made themselves available to their friends, family, and community. So it's been outstanding to get to know you guys over the last little while, and I'm looking forward to more from you guys in terms of your mission, man. You're doing good shit.
Man of many names. He's the Ed Leslie of our generation here. He's a Brutus the Barber. Just want to say, sorry, you want to?
I have one more piece of housekeeping. This Friday, I will be on the Two Stewards show.
Oh yeah,
I will be traveling out to
Mark and Brent.
I'll be traveling out to see Mark and Brent. It's a economics / real estate / investing / life podcast with Mark and Brent. They came here to do an episode in the fall, and I really enjoyed it. My wife said they are both very nice. That we sat with them for a bit before the show and afterwards as well. And I've been hoping to get on their program. It's very good. I listen almost every episode, and I'm excited to go see the studio that they have there. It's nicer than this one. This one is like in turmoil right now. It's in disarray. I didn't tell Len this, but I ordered a desk, Len. That's going to give me a bit more space here. So
I have 2x4s.
I'll take it at the end of the fiscal year. Okay. We don't have to worry about it now.
I got plywood and 2x4s. I could have built a beautiful desk. You might get splinters by using it.
Do you know what the
price is right?
The crux here is cables. Like I'm going to do a studio tour video. I said I was going to do it before, but I'm like embarrassed of the cable situation here. It looks fine when I'm in the chair and it's like got the depth of field and everything. But I am just so sick of looking at it. Look what the fuck. I know, off camera, right? Baby. Yeah, like dude, I'm going crazy here. So I told my wife, I'm like, I'm gonna go buy a proper desk with some cable, like a cable thing at the back. Hopefully clean this up a bit and paint in here too at the other side of the wall. Anyway, story for another time. But yeah, great week. That was great week coming up. What else do we got before we start? You want to do the boost?
Yeah. So the top 5, we have Wartime 333 sats. So always a consistent. He also did the mugs too. So I did 2 of them. So actually it was a fire and clapping. That was the other one. He didn't do the mugs this week for whatever reason. Either way, he says,
Wartime.
hell yeah, I need to get my chocolate milk numbers up. Only reason I'm not at 1 gallon per day is I want raw milk at that quantity.
Yeah.
Hard to get her. Hopefully RFK changes that. So I think he's obviously sounds like he lives in the US.
Yeah, American listener. I can see the split. The split is like 70-30-ish Canadian American with like
Any
5%.
Europeans?
Yeah, 5-6% European mixed in there too. But it's
From?
it's a pretty small number. I haven't looked in a while. But it's
come on, we did a spot from Louisville. You should have.
From where?
You should have said it from Louisville.
Oh,
you
I don't
you
know.
don't watch
I don't
NFL
know.
primetime? Tom Jackson, Chris Berman?
I mean, Tom Jackson and Berman haven't done primetime for a decade.
Yeah, but that's a from Louisville. Anyway, let's do an at. This guy at no name. I wish I could give him credit. At 420 sats. Anyone you guys interview in the future who has their own podcast, can you teach them how to accept boosts on Fountain? I have all these shows and none of them do boosts, only comments.
Yeah.
Example, the Looney Hour. It's an easy small orange pill and gateway to exit the matrix. There's instructions on Fountain if you just want to use them to host it. It's really simple.
I'll be at dinner with Rich and Keith in a few weeks. So
I'll send you the instructions.
I'll tell them.
You can fucking show them, and let's get them on.
It's not even that hard. Like it's pretty easy to do. It doesn't require people. I think, and if you're not a Bitcoiner, you think about Bitcoin, you think about the wallets and all this. And Lightning is, is sort of an intimidating beast at face value. But you don't need to download anything. You don't need more hardware. Fountain is, semi-custodial if you want it to be. It's rather easy. So maybe I'll give them a quick lesson there.
Jer writes in 500 sats. Very nice to hear from Scott. Super thoughtful.
Yeah. Scott was a great guest. I mean, I've given him and the coalition a lot of shit over the last 2 years. And I cannot stress enough how important it was to me in this whole process, kind of getting to know him and eventually having him on the show, that when I met him, he was not confrontational. He thought that I had some fair criticisms, thought that I had some unfair criticisms. And I spoke to him over a few pints, among other people, like Sed Youngelman was there, Jaime Garcia was there, a bunch of people, Brandon, all these guys who were at the conference last year. We all went to the same pub the night after the conference wrapped up. And I talked to Scott for a long time. And like I said on the show, it's easy to be in Bitcoin and talk, but not do anything, right? Talk, but never start a show, never try and raise money, never get involved with meetups, all that stuff. Scott has done things probably the hardest possible way, between leaving his old job, coming into this silo, working on Bitcoin policy for federal government officials to review and hopefully, this is an almost impossible task. And it seems to me, Len, like now is the time to start gaining some momentum given what's happening in the States. So I wish him all the best. And like I said on Wednesday last week, that passion cannot be faked. And he's got it in spades. He's welcome back on this show anytime. And I'm happy to support whatever those guys are doing. And
I don't want to say that we're shitting on people that don't do anything. I kind of respect people that don't. The reason being is you're anonymous. You're buying Bitcoin. You're not out there. You're not.
No, there's nothing. I respect that. Totally.
I love that.
Yeah.
And in a way, you are better off than a lot of other folks, because if you haven't exposed yourself to owning Bitcoin, that $5 wrench attack, you're less likely to be subjected to that.
For sure.
So I give you all the credit in the world if you do that.
There's that, but my problem is the guys who are like constantly yapping, and I'll point to the clickbaiters again. Like, if you're just running shitty content all day, every day, trying to corral views for the sake of paying your bills, like you're not helping, you're hurting.
Yeah.
And like that's not good. But there's a lot of people doing that, and I look at like the Bitcoin Coalition could for sure put out videos and content and podcasts that are just worthless. No alpha, no movement, no nothing, right? But it seems to me like these guys are trying to advance a very specific set of positions and policies that make sense. And like I said to Scott last week, they're rather simple to adopt, given the tech available in Bitcoin, given the slant toward Bitcoin that you see in the States now, among other things. Like there's a lot of reasons why this stuff should be getting easier and easier. And so I'm looking forward to see what they do. Honestly, I think they're led by good people. Brad Mills involved as well. There's a fellow named John, whose last name I always forget, and then Scott. And their board, I mean, you can go to the BCC website and see their board. It's a stud board. So, it's hard to imagine these guys won't be successful as long as they keep plugging away.
Well, Jer, this is a long boost segment. Jer, 1,000 sats. Appreciate you, and he gives a salute right back at you. And Jer, again, another 1,000 sats. He says, "Thank you, gents, for another informative hour. I hope you find this one to be equally as informative as that one."
Probably not, honestly. Dave Bradley in the chat. Dave, I meant to message you. Len is doing the next rash of interviews, but then I want to add you to my guest roster here into the spring. So we'll talk.
Well, surprisingly, that's where it ends up. I have the next 4 already booked, and then the first 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, so the first one that's available in spring is available if you want. Anyways, just say who's coming on this Wednesday. It's a pre-recorded interview that I did a month ago with Tony Yazbek, and he is the co-founder of the Bitcoin Way. His story is very interesting in that I would suggest listen into it, but it goes to show you that you can't leave your money in a bank. Where he left his money in the bank overnight, it was taken away. The wealth was taken away, and unfortunately, he didn't have any opportunity to convert it to USD. It was just shut out, and he became a Bitcoiner instantly. He went from prosperity to being retired to, back in the workforce. So
that's a crazy story. I remember when you told me about that interview after you did it. It's worth a listen. I mean, you guys will all listen anyway, but it is worth a listen. Yeah, Boomer in the chat. Tony's one of the highest signal guys in Bitcoin. Full disclosure here, I didn't know much about this fella till we started talking.
He's been
about him coming on.
He's talked to Saifedean. He's been in his show. He's been around. So he's really. I felt sorry for him just listening to his story, but it was inspiring at the same moment. I wanted to buy more Bitcoin, and I did since then. Totally. And last thing I just want to suggest: hop on our Discord, man. It's getting to be popular. Even Joey's coming on every.
I'm being forced. Okay, I hate the Discord interface. Len is forcing me behind the scenes. There's board action against me. I'm being usurped by other executive members of the CBP corporation here.
No, it's just a suggestion, and he follows up on that suggestion. I suggest you check out the Discord. The link is below. That's another high signal place where we're chatting. And if you want to talk to Joey, and even a lot of beef you get, or grief you get over there for not running a no Joey, I'm going to have to just send you something.
Beef and grief. Not to mention that people are already giving me shit about not responding in Discord when I'm playing video games because they can see what I'm playing. Total disaster. Just another look into my private life. What am I wasting my time on?
All right, let's go. This has been almost 20 minutes.
Let's get going here. We're running out of time.
All right. Well, BYBIT, I guess that's number 1. Ooh. Right. What a story that
BYBIT. Bye to your fucking money bit.
Yeah. So hopefully everybody's aware. For those who aren't aware, we'll run it down. At least I'll do a quick overview. But this is a reason why you don't want to leave any of your Bitcoin on an exchange. It's recommended you use a non-custodial exchange, and then it's sent to you immediately, something like Bull Bitcoin. Or alternatively, if you're not using a non-custodial exchange, you're using a custodial exchange, take it off as soon as you can. Don't leave it on. Don't give them the opportunity to get a hack and then you have your funds drained. But with respect to BYBIT, the numbers are astounding. It was $1.4 billion worth of ETH was stolen from them. It was a multi-sig wallet that was eventually compromised, and apparently the last signature of that was from a Ledger device. Now, with all this to be said, I'm not trying to shit on Ledger. It seems to be more of an internal problem, but I will shit on exchanges that hold on to your Bitcoin. Don't let them do that. And I know this is a ETH story, but still, there's some semblance to what's going on with Bitcoin. Take your Bitcoin, put it into cold storage, sleep well at night. And so Lazarus Group, apparently that's the group that's responsible for this.
Familiar to you and I, right? From the other show.
So Joey and I do Axis of Easy. That's released Fridays, I think they're released.
It's Friday sometime. I don't know exactly when, but yeah. And
we talk every so often comes a Lazarus Group story. And here's another one. So they were responsible for this $1.4 billion ETH heist. It kind of reminds me of Goodfellas. I would imagine somebody from Lazarus group is taking a shower. He's just banging on the shower. Jimmy, Jimmy. The Lufthansa heist. But with respect to this, I think now, because ETH has been converted slowly or quickly to Bitcoin because they don't want to hold on to it for a variety of reasons. Is North Korea now, do they have a strategic Bitcoin reserve before anybody else? It just seems like they kind of do. I don't want to say, I will go on to say that even the Bitcoiner of the week for these, I'm going to go Kim Jong-un, man, because he's fucking holding more Bitcoin than most other people. But people are discussing maybe even the possibility of doing a rollback of the chain. And because if you think about it, a sworn enemy, North Korea, now has access to the shitcoin, ETH. But in all honesty, it's too late for that. If they would have done this, it would have probably been done almost immediately. But it's now days after the fact, so it's probably not going to happen. But the fact that this is even being discussed just highlights the fact that what a shitcoin ETH really is. Like, if there's somebody that has the power, or a bunch of people that have the power to arbitrarily roll back the chain, to me, that's centralized. I don't care how you fucking say it. Like, it's a centralized shitcoin. But I want to talk a little bit more about BYBIT. I don't know how BYBIT was able to manage this, but they, like, think about a traditional bank, right? If somehow there's a compromise, there is the $100,000 backing for every account in Canada, $250,000, I think, in the United States. It's done by bigger powers, right? Either the government or a central bank or a combination of the two. When it comes to this, there's nobody that can make people whole, but yet $1.4 billion was taken from BYBIT, and I can't fucking believe it. They just took this in the chin, and they kept. I don't know who the fuck, aside from Apple, has $1.4 billion just sitting idly there, and just, oh, we'll use this to fucking fund our customers to lost their money. Like, I don't understand. Apparently, they've borrowed money. That's what people are saying. That's one way they're trying to weather the storm. I don't know. It just seems like it's absolutely insane.
Ponzi potential here? No? Yes?
Potentially. FTX was saying that they were fully back to just before they went tits up. Yeah. So we'll talk about FTX in just a moment. I just wanted to go into one other topic that's kind of similar to this, but a lot of people wonder about Bitcoin. When they buy Bitcoin from an exchange, do they really have it? Are they selling you fake Bitcoin? Or I'm of the belief that, yeah, that all exchanges are selling you real Bitcoin. There's no shenanigans going on. They're not pulling the wool over your eye. And I'll explain why. Using this as an example, $1.4 billion of ETH was stolen. If they were selling non-ETH, the price of ETH wouldn't have moved at all.
Yeah.
The fact that they had to rebuy $1.4 billion of ETH, the price of ETH went up almost. I looked at it, the exact amount.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show me that this unregistered exchange, it's not like it's publicly traded like Coinbase and registered like all these other. They were able to buy ETH because they had to, so they weren't selling paper or fake ETH. And I think that companies like this are selling you, when you buy Bitcoin, real Bitcoin. I know it's a totally different topic, but I think this is just my opinion. I could be wrong, but it just seems like they are selling you what it is that they need to sell you, which, to me, in one way, it seems to be a good thing. But don't fucking rely on these exchanges that hold on to your bullshit, especially fucking ETH. What the fuck?
It's interesting. I don't know. Well, it's the thing that's interesting to me is there's been these pictures floating around of what a ledger device might have looked like trying to sign that transaction, because Ethereum as an asset as a software, let's say, has changed quite a bit since the original ledger device launched in 15, 16, before that maybe. So it was a long time ago. But you could still be potentially using a Ledger Nano SX, whatever that first one was, that we all had, by the way. You know, I had one. You could still be using that device if you're locking up Ethereum for some reason, or you're holding Ethereum for some reason. And now those devices are they're relics of a simpler time in Ethereum, right? And so when you're trying to use this thing for a contract or for a multi-sig or whatever, it doesn't actually give you like a checksum verify, I'm pretty sure is the term that we use in Bitcoin, where it would tell you basically if the address was wrong, or you'd be able to figure it out. The Bitcoin addresses, for people who don't know, are split into like 3 parts, right? It's like the prefix, suffix, and then the back end. And each part plays a role in verifying what type of address, the other like characteristics that are assigned to that address based on that wallet. But this stuff is not super important all the time, but for stuff like this, it's very important, because if your device that you're signing the transaction with can't give you accurate information about the transaction because the software on the asset side has changed, you're fucked. And that's what happened here. There's some social engineering you mentioned, Len, and it's in the chat as well, among other things. Like, it's just not a good security, effort by BYBIT if this is possible so easily. But at the end of the day, part of the responsibility here is that these guys didn't update the hardware they were using to secure their assets. My question for people now, if you're using BYBIT, why would you ever leave anything on the exchange, knowing that, number one, they just bought back $1.5 billion worth of ETH, somehow had the cash, somehow got loans. I don't know who's giving loans at that level to someone who just had their security compromised. Number two, there's rumors floating around that part of the reason we're seeing this depressed Bitcoin price is because there's negative pressure from them selling Bitcoin to make ends meet on the Ethereum hack. And then finally, on top of that, if you're in Ethereum, you mentioned it, Len, the idea that Vitalik can even float the idea of the Ethereum Foundation saying, we're going to roll back that chain, we're going to roll back that transaction, we're going to put those funds back in the right people's hands and end the criminal activity. That's nuts. So again, it's funny. There's a video I have to make at some point here about Mark Carney and his split economy. But the reason I'm even bringing that up is because in one of the replies to his comments yesterday, somebody mentioned that Bitcoin was no good because of the BYBIT hack. And I think a lot of people are probably thinking this on the traditional finance side. They're looking for reasons to knock down Bitcoin. But this is why you buy Bitcoin, self-custody Bitcoin, have a solid hardware device, a CoinKite device, preferably. But there are others that are better than a fucking ledger. And you just like what do we always say, Len? As a Bitcoiner, your security suite has to be easy in, hard out. That is the whole equation. And you're doing that for a couple of reasons. One, because you never know how emotional you will get when Bitcoin hits 1 million. Okay, that's the first thing. And number two, you don't want to be subjected to a 10-minute social engineering exercise. If something takes you a couple of days to get together, to send out Bitcoin, to do an outgoing transaction, you're much more likely to be, even the dumbest people are much more likely to avoid something like this, because either they don't have the attention span to stick with this for a day and a half, or finally the light bulb will go off, before they send the transaction. But if you don't have those things, like the potential for you to be targeted is there too. Who was it about a year ago that had like 60 minutes of audio with a social engineering guy who almost had him? He was like an OG Bitcoiner. I can't remember who it was. He almost got socially engineered for like a big part of his stack, and eventually got the kid to just talk about it with him. He's like 16 years old. Somebody in the chat will remember. These guys are gunning for you all the time, whether you're an exchange, whether you're an individual, whether you're a government, whether you're whoever. June Seth, there you go. So like when you're talking about this stuff, it's not just BYBIT's got shitty security. They do have shitty security. It's not just BYBIT is a target. It's everyone is a target. And if you are holding that much wealth on an exchange, you can have your wealth sniped by somebody who is unrelated to you, will fall for this thing way easier than you would. It's just too much spreading of risk. Don't bother with this. Hold it yourself. Sleep soundly. And
100%.
Don't worry about it. Yeah.
And I'm going to say this, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but this is the truth. Ledger, when it's done properly, when it's used properly, and it's hard to really use it properly because you got to plug it in and everything, but still, I trust that more than I would by leaving my Bitcoin
100%. Oh, it's not even a question. Not even a question.
Yeah. So if you're going to have to pick and choose between, I'm going to leave it on X exchange or use my Ledger device, the Ledger device wins all the time.
Even those older ledgers, we talked about this before. The older ledgers, like without all the stupid backdoor key sharing and all this other shit, like, yeah, they're not the best technology now. They're not as good as the Q or the Mark IV, but they're like Len was just saying, they're a lot better than leaving it on any exchange. A lot better. So. Yeah. Especially
if you are updating it. I would imagine they release firmware updates for even these older devices.
I don't know.
So that way you prevent yourself from being hacked to a degree. Still way better than leaving an exchange. But even that, like you mentioned, 2 devices, which we recommend, the Q or the Mark IV from CoinKite, both are great products. Learn how to use those properly. Absolutely, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
FTX, we talked about this. It's probably a good segue from BYBIT to FTX because they are starting to repay their customers. For people who are unaware, this is the big exchange that went tits up back in 2022. And so they're starting to repay their customers who have up to $50,000 that they had on the exchange. And for people who missed this first round of payments, which started on February 18th, well, the next one's going to take place on May 30th. So this is a very long process to get through everything. And when FTX, this is a very important thing to note. Like, they're paying people back, and people might be thinking, oh,
you're marking to market on the day of the hack.
Yes.
Yeah.
When FTX disappeared, Bitcoin is trading somewhere in the vicinity between $16,000 and $21,000 USD per coin. What is it now? 91,000, you were saying? Beginning of the show.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference. So that's how they're going to be recalculating the payments. It's based on when it went tits up. So 16 to 21,000 was the marker. Now 91,000. That's an incredible difference. So that's another reason why never leave your stuff on the exchange. Also, the people that were using FTX, they have no hope in hell. Not only were they leaving their stuff on the exchange, a recent survey was done of 1,000 folks that are FTX creditors, and they say that 80% plan to reinvest in recovery funds. Okay, that's fine. But 62% plan to invest in what? Solana as their primary choice. So fucking
crazy.
You know, you're given a lifeline here. You're gonna get pennies in a dollar, and what are you gonna do? You're gonna fucking try to roll the dice in some meme coin. Fuck you.
There was a great tweet. I'm gonna see if I can find it here because I'm pretty sure I tweeted it. A guy who got his geez, I'm not gonna be able to find it. A guy who got his FTX payout was like, I just got my FTX payout. I deposited into BYBIT. Where are we going long?
Yeah, that was a great one. It is the morning of that. Good. Yeah. So we'll see you in another few years, buddy.
FTX still in the news somehow, eh? Listen, I want to give a shout out to the guy who's doing the recovery work. I can't remember his name, John something. The guy's doing incredible work. Like, for him to be able to get back all the money, pretty significant. I'm surprised he was able to do that. You hardly ever see that in these bankruptcy/fraud proceedings, that everyone gets paid back, even though it's obviously mark to market like 3 years away, but or 3 years back. Still a lot better than what you might expect to see in a situation like this. So good for him. Again, though, you get exactly what you deserve if you are in casinos that are gambling on shit coins, gambling on, you know, what was he doing? He was trading against his own users, I'm pretty sure, via Alameda. Not to mention he had that token. It's safe to say that any exchange that uses its own token, we've talked about this so many times, and so has everyone else, to run this flywheel, this value flywheel. If you are on an exchange that does that, you are 10 times as likely to be hacked than if you are on an exchange that doesn't. Still high percentage probability in either case, much higher than using a cold card, but you have to know the signs. If there's a token, you got to get out. If there's a bunch of shit you've never heard of trading every day, you got to get out. And by the way, Coinbase is going this direction too. So Coinbase talking about, we need to alleviate legal departments from all this stupid, burdensome work. That work, by the way, is making sure people don't get ripped off. And we should just list every token and then worry about the rest later. It's all going this direction. To quote Pablo again, the middle has fallen out. Okay. It's fallen out on the exchange side and it's fallen out on the token side. There's only self-custody, garbage, Bitcoin, gambling. There's no in between anymore. And if you get rugged or sniped, it's your fucking fault. There's no excuse now. Everyone knows Bitcoin is the king. The Ethereum guys are drowning in their own sorrow, including the 2 jokers on Bankless now. So, you know, it's over for everything that's not Bitcoin. And you got to realize this at some point. Otherwise, you're going to realize it when you get rugged or when you're living in a tent in Southern Ontario, one or the other.
Binance has their own token. You were mentioning anyone that has their own
Flywheel.
Token.
That's another one. I don't believe anything those guys fucking say. CZ was in jail. So like, what are we talking about here? This guy, he's tweeting at Kanye West. Like this guy's not a serious guy. You want to leave your fucking money with this guy? Okay, man.
Binance US is back in action.
Great, super.
Incredibly, they're back in operation. You're able now to withdraw and deposit your USD into Binance US. This has been shuttered for almost 1.5, a little over 1.5 years. July 2023 was when it was closed in the US and they stopped allowing customers to use it. But now you're able to buy and sell Bitcoin and a bunch of other shitcoins on there. So it's there. It's now back in action. What the fuck?
Like, imagine going there now. Can you imagine going to these? And by the way, I should mention that there was a set of legal proceedings dropped today or yesterday, I forget when, in the United States against maybe Coinbase or one of these other exchanges for trading in unregistered securities. Like, the US is encouraging this behavior. They're not going to protect you if something goes sideways. You have to protect yourself. Okay. There is no, well, I need to be helped by the Securities and Exchange Commission. I need to be helped by the US federal government. I need to be helped by local law enforcement to track down my hard-earned $1,500 that I got rugged on in, Pepe turd token. Okay, well, like, it's all you now, man. You need to realize Bitcoin is the only thing that matters. There is no pension investing in Pepe turd token. There is no slow money investing in fucking, Soul meme coins. There is none. It's all right here. There is no get rich quick scheme. Nothing comes easy. There is no free lunch. You pick your analogy. The idea that people are still going for this, man, is like mind numbing. How the fuck is this still going on?
Have you seen the story about the gold being shipped over from London to New York?
Oh yeah, of course I have.
I find this to be fascinating.
Tell me why. Okay, tell me why. Are we doing this story or we're just talking shit about it?
No, we could talk about it. This is headline from the Financial Post. It says gold bars worth billions are being stashed on commercial flights in rush to get bullion to America because London vaults, they want to repatriate, I guess, or either way, have it shipped to U.S. soil because tariffs might be coming on and it might create some real problems with getting gold out of the vaults over there. So they're trying to ship over physically to try to move that fucking gold from London to New York or wherever the fucking United States are trying to bring it to.
Right.
But it's coming on all these flights. Think about the security involved required to ship this shit. It's not like you could just put it in a suitcase and put it in the overhead compartment. It's got to be secured. It's got to be checked in, checked out, all this stuff that's time consuming and the amount of energy required to put on a flight. It's 2025. We have fucking Bitcoin. This stuff could be sent from A to B quickly without any fucking resistance. And they're still using this. I can't believe there's still no coiners like this that exist, but they do. Or maybe they're pre-coiners. Either way, what the fuck they are.
Or they're just Bitcoiners who are just doing their job.
Like,
could be that.
What the fuck? Bitcoin is just sitting there. It just works.
We have to talk about this. This is an important one. I want to give a shout out to John Rubino. He was on the show like 3 weeks ago at this point, and we talked about this story way before it got big about how the London COMEX went from a couple of days for physical claims to 8 weeks, basically overnight. There's a bunch of reasons this could be. John mentioned the bar size is different. Some places so you have to remelt and rebar, all this stuff. Fine. But it's still going on. And now you have this other theory floating around, and it's been mentioned in the chat by Take the Ride that this, potentially there's missing gold from the London Reserve, fake gold in the London Reserve. The U.S. Treasury, like Fort Knox and whatever's underneath New York, doesn't have the gold they say they do. They're using gold overseas to fill the void. I just want to talk a bit about what gold storage used to look like. It's pretty wild. Like, I can't remember if I said this on last week's show, but I'll repeat it here. Fort Knox land used to be like this publicly available kind of like institution. I'm pretty sure I wrote this down. Let me see if I have it here. I've been trying to write stuff down more so I don't forget.
Was it
not working?
Anybody who wanted to pay, say, a entry fee was able to go in? The same way you could do it in the
kind of. I don't have it written down, but I'll do my best to remember. So basically, there's been like 3 audits of Fort Knox. One in 73, which was done by like government officials who are not experts in gold. It might actually be in my Evernote here. But basically, there's been 3 audits. None of them really would be satisfactory by any stretch, right? So this is a problem, I think, when you talk about, okay, well, what what are we talking about when we say the gold reserves have been audited? There's been like audits where they've only done 5% of the gold, right? And there was no weighing done. It was just a visual audit. There's been audits where they let in the media, and the media gets to look, but they only open one vault compartment and the media looks and sees there's gold there and that's it. The gold's never actually been audited. The saving grace for Fort Knox in the past, again, like vintage American political like lore here, when gold was added to Fort Knox in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and even I think actually like 70s, 80s, and before we went off the gold standard, they went off the gold standard. They had like ceremonial additions to the Fort Knox reserves. So they drive through huge fucking trucks, little bit of showmanship. Why? It was power projection. This was at a time when gold was the thing that demonstrated power, having gold in your vault, right? And so they did this power projection thing. Now, looking at the audits, I'm not convinced that there was any gold in those trucks, number one. But then, like, put on your tinfoil hat. That was the same time the U.S. landed on the moon. Big power projection there, right? I don't know. A lot of people think that didn't happen. I'm not sure where I come down on that. It sure looks to me like that grade 8 science project tent vehicle couldn't make it through a fucking couple of orbits and then come back to Earth. I'll fucking tell you that. Then you're talking about the couple of wars they had coming up where they quote unquote lost, you know, in Vietnam, for example. Like these guys cared a lot about power projection for like 20 years, a lot after World War II. The sort of aura from that victory wore off as we move into the 70s. And they tried to reestablish it, I think, with stuff like the Fort Knox, with stuff like the moon landing, with stuff like all this other, you know, I don't have to go down the list. But the point I was making is that there's never been a quality audit of Fort Knox. At least not one that's publicly available, that was publicly witnessed, that was publicly documented. So whatever these guys do next.
Empty or no?
Do I think it's empty?
Or because there's going to be, I think, one of three different.
I don't think it's empty. I think it's.
So there's one of. It's either they have nothing, they have exactly or more than what they say, like within, you know, a certain percentage. If it's, you know, a few grams off, I'm not going to fucking complain. Or they have something between, you know, the percentage between 0 and 1 and 99. So that's really the three different options they have.
Yeah.
So which camp do you fall under?
I'm a lot closer to nothing than I am to full reserve.
So
and
you're something between 1 and 99% of.
Yeah. The only thing that gives me pause in that hypothesis is that they just don't give a fuck about the currency at all. They've printed it like crazy since 71, basically. And so I think the question you'd have to ask, if you think they have none, is why would they sell it? Now, you know, there's all kinds of commentary. We talked about an ounce right now. What's that?
It's marked at like $30-something an ounce right now.
$40 an ounce. Yeah. So here's the thing, right? People who talk about this, and I've been guilty of this too, but people who talk about marking gold to market for the current rate, whatever it is, almost 3,000 today, right? It's what's like 29.56 or something. It's going to get there. The reason people talk about, well, they're not marking it to market because they don't have it. No, that's stupid. The reason they're not marking it to market is because if they mark that to market, they'll have to mark some of the rest of their books to market. So you can't just mark one of your best assets to market and not mark some of your liabilities. Like, I don't know. How about treasuries? How about those?
Think of how much time we just talked about this between the transferring of gold from London.
You could have just sent a Bitcoin address and told me what you had. And
Bingo.
That's it. I know. I'm with you.
Easily verify. You could like you were saying the power move, or they had the trucks go in and drive. You know what the power move is now? You fucking have that open dime hanging from your necklace, and you walk in and you just smile. And you know,
Trump needs to have $1 million in an open dime hanging around his neck before the end of his presidency. Yeah.
In 2025, again, to say, I don't want to keep bringing up, but why do we have to do this? The suspicion that they don't have anything. If I wanted to verify how much Bitcoin I have, I could do it. And there's no way you could say, you don't fucking have it, because I'll sign a message with that.
By the way, it's impossible then to verify all of Fort Knox. Like, that's a years-long effort. You're talking melting bars. You're talking different chemical labs to evaluate. I mean, it's not even just forget about the energy. You have to decentralize the whole process to avoid being able to just buy one chemical lab and convince one chemical lab to, give whatever results you want.
What a
The whole
waste.
thing is like, and again, like the point now is not, Fort Knox is not about power projection now. It's about how much have you been lying to the rest of the world about everything else you did in terms of exporting that soft power since 71, and there's been a lot of things that they could have been lying about. There's a lot of people who think a lot of the US quote unquote wins and technological developments and all this stuff.
Imagine you had
Never
ownership.
happened. Yeah.
Like it's hypothetically, you were the owner of all that gold that claims to be in Fort Knox. Like it's yours. It's in your name.
Yeah.
The hell could you do with it? Like it's imagine you had the equivalent in Bitcoin. What could you do with it? Well, so much more.
Yeah.
It's not like you shove that and go somewhere to the store and scrape off a few flakes and.
Well, like you said, it can't be moved, right? It can't be moved in a situation where you need it to back a currency. Like it's not really going to help at this point. We've talked about this before. Even the gold bugs admit that in a situation where gold becomes the currency, you're really talking more about ammunition and food than you are about gold ounces. So like this stuff all together is just kind of, it's mental masturbation more than it's a real applicable scenario that might come to fruition. And the only reason that, like I said, the only reason now that you would verify this is to show that you are, a nation in control. And I don't know, like I look around and see what else the US has done or has been doing or plans to do, the Bush years, the Clinton years. You had two Obama terms. You just had Biden in there. I'm not convinced.
Great.
Yeah, I'm not convinced that they like again, the sale of the gold seems to me to be just as unlikely as them having all of it. I really don't know where I come down. I can't think of a good reason for them to sell whatever was in there, basically is what I would say. And the only reason you'd ever sell is you were like desperate for some reason. But, and then,
they have the ultimate way to create, well, I don't want to say wealth, but they just print money. That's
exactly right. There's no need to sell the gold. And the other thing too, like the people, again, I don't think discuss often enough, marking the gold to market. Like even if you do that and you're able to somehow get away with the tricky accounting and not do it with any of your liabilities, what does it get you? It's a little shy of $1 trillion in gold. Your deficit or your debt, is 36 and growing. Like what does it do for you? It doesn't do anything.
$1 trillion?
Yeah, it doesn't do anything for you. So what's the point? Like moving your debt down from 36 to 35 when it takes 90 days to get back up to 36. It doesn't do anything for your books. It just, you just end up selling a rare rock. Like there's no benefit there. You can't back your currency with it. It's M2 and M1 are both way the fuck out of control. You can't tell people that it's now available to use as a means of exchange. No one has any. It's not feasible to it's not divisible the same way we talk about all the time as Bitcoin is. It doesn't make sense for them to do it. So what is the benefit to selling it, even if you're able to market to market?
Nothing. It's just there.
Yeah.
And they're probably
what effect does it have on the Bitcoin price? If here's the thing, the Bitcoin price doesn't move either way, because if they have all the gold, then that signifies that gold is important to the market writ large and the gold price goes up. If they don't have all the gold, then it signifies that government now, lied about having the gold because they knew it was important and the gold price goes up. Bitcoin's price doesn't go up in either scenario, in my opinion. So I don't know, these people, again, like the clickbait boys, the Fort Knox, they don't have the gold, Bitcoin price is going to moon. You're retarded. You haven't given this even a modicum of thought. That's not how price action works. There's rarity and importance, and one or the other happens regardless of the outcome. And both are good for gold, which I think is another bit of a calculus that these guys have to do before they decide what they release and what they don't release in terms of the audit. So let's see. Can Elon stream it? I would love to see the inside of Fort Knox. I have no idea what it looks like in there.
They probably don't even have Wi-Fi inside there. They have nothing. It's got to be it's such an antique in there, right? Like once you get past a certain and security and stuff like that. There's no
Ledger level. It's Ledger Nano S level security in there at this point.
Now, I think we should probably give a portion of it to BYBIT to maybe make them whole. right? Like let's just be
You think?
charitable.
Yeah.
Why not? $1.6 billion. That's just what? How many bars is that? Just fucking throw it on
Here's
the
a
back of
question
the
for you.
trucks,
Do you
send it
think
over.
do you think the pilots who are driving these planes full of gold are DEI hires, or you think they're competent thousands of hours of flying? What's your guess? But they just put the DEI pilots on the passenger flights and fucking kill people instead. What's your guess there?
I have no comment on this.
No comment. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting, right? Yeah.
We'll
Okay.
just leave it at that. Talk about Fold for people who
What a
are
dud.
unaware.
Why the fuck would you ever buy this stock? I cannot fucking figure this out for the life of me.
I would rather fuck a garbage disposal than buy any of these things, to be honest. But
Harsh.
Fold
I think
went
I'd rather
live.
buy the stock than that, but yeah, it's not high on
Nah,
the list.
at least I'll get a thrill, one last thrill. Fucking
Yeah,
with the garbage
exactly.
disposal. So it went live on the NASDAQ. Fold did, and it's the Bitcoin financial services company, and it was February 18th. And
Generous interpretation of the company's capabilities and mission, by the way. Financial services company.
That's what they claim to be. And
Yeah,
FLD is the ticker.
Yeah.
It went live with the price of around $10 per share. And as of yesterday, it was a little bit under 8. It was 7.78 to be exact as of yesterday. I don't know what happened today. I didn't check, but
let's find out.
So yeah, let's see if it went back closer to its date, to its initial price of $10 per share.
$6.
It went even lower. Anyways, so that's too bad. And the company is
what is it? FLD?
Yeah, FLD is
Fold Holdings Inc. Is that it?
I think so.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And the one interesting thing about Fold is that they at least have 1,000 Bitcoin on their reserves. So not many companies go live that have Bitcoin in their holdings. They do. So that's one thing for them, but really just man. A lot of people
if you're buying for the treasury, you're buying MSTR. We've talked about this a million times. Nobody wants to buy a fucking Fold, what's basically a credit card, gift card vendor, like an interface to buy gift cards with Bitcoin. It's a shit company, a shit stock. This is one that is going to live in infamy. It's just such a bad idea to take something like this public. Such a bad idea.
Some people probably made money off this. The people that were on the inside, that they had ownership of the company, now they could dump it on the market initially for $10.
I'm with you. Yeah.
Why would anybody want to go public? And maybe to raise funds to fund a project to get.
We've talked about this with sponsors of the show, right? Like Ledin and ShakePay both, I think, had at least meetings about going public. ShakePay probably still on that road, to be honest with you. But they have a way better business model than whatever the fuck this is. Taking a scalp and doing Bitcoin back on gift. Like, I don't get this Fold card. Come on. It's just like, give me a break.
Could you buy? You know what? I have the Fold app. I never even used it.
I deleted it. I couldn't, because the spinning the wheel is like 5 sats a day. And then like
so bad. It was good for a while.
Yeah.
And you have to have $50 accumulated USD in order to withdraw.
Yeah. I'll be my great grandchildren might be able to withdraw at this point.
But you know what, where it's decent, if you're going to buy like an Amazon card or something like that, because there's some cards in there that you could buy and you could use Lightning and you get a percentage back, which is not bad. And that accumulates pretty fast. And you get to the $50 threshold and withdraw that. So that's the one thing. So if you go like the Old Navy, Amazon in the States, there's not many Canadian companies, but in the United States, there's a heck of a lot more. Nintendo.
I want to ask Boomer in the chat. You saying they're similar to ShakePay? ShakePay doesn't actually have a credit card, right? They have a prepaid debit card, and ShakePay's model is taking a scalp off of every buy and sell. That's a good model. Whether you agree with the idea or not, that's a good model. And ShakePay is fucking huge. So, kudos to them. And by the way, I like ShakePay. I was just talking to Carlo, or Carlo's wife, I should say, because she's Brad Mills EA the other day. Carlo's doing well. I like those guys. Same with Ledin. Ledin, you may agree or disagree with the loan model, but that's another good model. And they've been resilient. That's a company that has a model, makes money, and probably could go public. But the idea that buying gift cards is your model and you take that public, I don't get it. That's what I don't get. Because the credit card, like Fold can't issue a credit card. They can issue a MasterCard or whatever, but MasterCard gets a cut of that too. So for Fold to get some, you really got to be paying a high fee, And so I'm unsure about the exact mechanics, but in my head, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
ShakePay partnered up with a company to provide them the visa. It starts with the letter M. I can't remember the name.
Yeah.
So I would imagine that they're the ones that are also taking a cut when you use the Shake Pay card.
Maybe,
too.
yeah.
They have to, because you have to get into the ecosystem of Visa, and they're not going to let you come in with. So that company that begins with the letter M, I fucking escapes me now. They're the ones that provide them that interface. And so they're taking a spread in, or sorry, cut it every time.
Also, like as a general rule, like you like getting Len, like getting Bitcoin many different ways. Would you ever go through this process? Like go to Fold, buy a gift card, go back to Fold, use the Fold card and the gift card to buy something, get some extra sats back, or would you just buy whatever you're buying?
No, I have, because Sabrina, growing up, like it still is, they grow like weeds, kids, and we have an outlet that's close by Old Navy, and we use that, and we use that quite a bit. So I've gone purposely to buy the gift card from Fold, and so I got the sats back from that because I knew I was going to go to Old Navy. So I've gone through the process. How often do I use it? Very infrequent, let's be honest. But I've, because I knew it was going to be used, and I might as well, might as well get some free stats back from that. So, and if you use it enough, the $50 minimum for withdrawal, it could be pretty damn quick. The problem in Canada, you don't have that many stores you could use the gift cards. If you're in the States, it's a wide variety, and Amazon is one of them. So if you're buying from Amazon, right, like might as well, you get free sats back.
So yeah, take the ride in the chat. First of all, good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while, TTR. I won't use your real name. There's a membership fee for Fold too, he says.
I don't know. I know
for the card, maybe for like the card itself. Maybe there's like another fee.
Maybe.
Like, he's just like constant rent seeking. Like, fuck,
it's fiat. It's all fucking fiat.
Yeah.
That's all it is, right? Like, they're just trying to link fiat with Bitcoin somehow. But the reality is, just fucking buy Bitcoin. That's the best thing. Don't buy this FLD stock. That's my opinion, not financial advice. Do what the fuck you ever want to do it, but you know what I'm going to do.
Quadruple P in the chat. Can you download the app in Canada? No, I don't think you can anymore. I deleted it. I'm pretty sure I can't get it back unless I VPN. You can't change your Play Store location very frequently. I think you can only do it like once every 6 months. So be careful with that if you're on Google.
Well, yeah, VPN it all the way, and I don't know why anybody would want to not be in the United States with the VPN. You get so much more. I don't know. I just prefer that. It's just me. Last story, Joey. Let's talk about this last one. And this is from the person that brought us the BitAxe. This is Scott 9000 on X or Twitter.
Crazy. This is crazy. Have you seen the video to go along with this, by the way?
I've seen the it was like a generated picture.
I'm going to find it. I'm going to find it. Keep talking.
So it's a new project called Ember 1. And it's a new version of, I guess we could call it BitAxe. And it's going to have 12 chips of the S19 Pro on it. And it'll be hashing between 3 to 3.6 terahash per second, and all coming from around 100 watts or so. And the product is available on GitHub. Not yet released. When I last checked, I'm not sure if it has, so I don't have any pricing associated with this. But it's another way that you can mine Bitcoin, do solo mining, I would suspect. You're not going to just join a pool and get your 300 sats a day or 200 sats a day with this. It's very efficient, very quiet, I would imagine. And it's making mining more decentralized, and that people like us can do it and just have it in the office. There's the video. If you mind playing it.
Okay, strap in. I know there's like too much digital noise when I get this mic close to the screen, so bear with me here. I'll move back in a sec, but listen to this. This is wild. Can you make these bigger?
This is a hash board out of this one's out of a S19J Pro. Okay. It has all these black squares are the ASIC chips. It has blocking button. You can see I removed some of them up here. But there's 3 of these normally in a miner. This is about 1,000 watts. This is the Ember 1. I just put this together last night. Beautiful. It's super cool. So much smaller, way less chips. In fact, this has 12. It's targeting 100 watts. So it's a 10th of a single Antminer hash board.
And there's 3 of those hash boards in the S19s.
This part would be underneath the heatsink. We got another cool factor is we got USB for data. So you could just plug this into a computer, I haven't soldered them on yet, but that's where the power connectors go right there. This is going to be pretty cool. And then for reference, this is a BYBIT, which has the heatsink and fan on it, but there's just one chip under there.
Okay. Very cool.
Dude, that's awesome, Scott. Good job. Thank you, man. I haven't plugged it in yet because I actually forgot one part, but we'll get that sorted out ASAP. Yeah.
So yeah, this is good for people out there that want to have more, and you have the ability rather than buying multiple BYBITs. I don't know the price to this for this thing, but I would suspect this is going to be a cheaper alternative rather than buying multiple. You just buy one of these Ember ones, and you'll be hashing out far greater than just doing anything else. So it just more opportunities to mine from home, very low wattage, very quiet.
Guy's doing great work. That is unbelievable. This guy's in his fucking house building home miners so that we can decentralize the network. Where do you see this in any other silo, any other profession, any other, this is gone now. There's no one, I shouldn't say no one, very few people building things to try and chip away at like corporate centralization and finance. And this is a guy, he's been on the show, I think, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We gotta get him back on to talk to him about this, because this is huge, man. I cannot tell you how great this is. It's unbelievable. I can't wait to get my hands on one of these. I'm going to buy one for sure.
Let's end it there, Joey. It's already an hour and 1 minute in. That's
God bless.
Long.
I'm actually shocked that I haven't had to go to the washroom. I took some Metamucil at like 2 o'clock. So I'm going to have probably an absolute fucking blow up when we're done recording here. But
you don't have a bucket or nothing nearby just in case?
You can't see underneath. You don't know. I could be wearing no pants. Yeah.
And if you time it right, like with the clap of the thunder outside, if it's ever just like Peter Griffin did, then nobody would even, except for the smell.
Oh God. Yeah. Can you imagine? Okay. Listen,
nearby, I think.
Let's go to the notable stories. If you're on video, YouTube, Twitter, thanks for stopping in every week. Couple hundred people watching, which I really like. Hang in. We'll do the notable stories right now. And if you're on audio only, come back for the rest of the podcast tomorrow. Until then, take care of yourselves.
And don't be a gold bug.
I kind of want to start uploading full video versions to Anchor in addition to the split audio versions, because Anchor seems to like the video stuff we put up. We get more plays on that. I think it recommends it via Spotify. But it would juice the play numbers a little bit, which is not fair to the sponsors. So
do we know if Ruby Dalla has been allowed to talk today? Because there's a debate going on. The debate
just started. So why don't we can we go
you can't pull it up. We're gonna get
No, I'm not gonna go to it, but I'm gonna go to the
She appealed the decision.
And of course she did. She was unfairly denied the opportunity. Like these people.
Chandra didn't appeal. He didn't.
Yeah. I don't think he had this. I don't think he had quite as much support behind him as she did.
I think he had more.
Really?
I think he was the ultimate protest vote. And it seemed like he had a lot more traction on X than Ruby did. And he got it far earlier than anybody else. Ruby was just she picked up whatever was left off for the most part from Chandra. People were still even contemplating, I'm going to vote maybe for Freeland, or because she's an alternative to Carney. So when Chandra left, people were just lost in a way. It was unfortunate. But we have the same thing now. Like, for people who are wondering what the fuck we're talking about,
it's on CBC's website. I'll put the link in the chat. You guys can watch.
So Ruby Dalla,
Mais tu le conférences en français.
Very good. And she was kicked out of the Liberal Party just the same way Chandra was, but it was because of extremely serious violations.
Allegations.
Violations. This is according to CBC.
She says, but I don't, whatever. Anyway,
it's to do with funding. But the fact that she was informed of this while live in an interview at CBC, that
fair or foul. Where do you come down?
I think that's pretty shitty.
Me too.
On two different fronts. Number one, he shouldn't have told her. Number two, they should have informed her.
Totally. But the CBC is is an arm of the Liberal Party. We all know this now. It's beyond a reasonable doubt at this point. And so I'm not surprised by this. It's completely foul. The people on CBC need to be unemployed, honestly. And when people, no, they do. When people talk about, listen, we'll talk about Ruby in a second, the sort of unfair nature of this whole thing. But when people talk about whether or not the CBC is in the pocket of the Liberal Party, the CBC will, with a straight face, tell you that they do unbiased journalism, that they don't carry water for any party, that they're not in bed with any party. And then you see something like this. This is unfathomable to a thinking person, because a thinking person looks at this and goes, how did the Liberal Party decide it was better to tell the CBC than Ruby? That's a good question you're asking. Well, how did they decide that? Well, I'm not convinced that that they didn't do that on purpose, because they don't want to tell her. I think that the CBC in subsequent reporting sort of said the quiet part out loud, that they don't want Ruby taking shots at Carney on stage all night. They don't want anyone taking shots at Carney on stage all night, because he is the king in waiting, I should say. And, for her to get disqualified over, I mean, pretty rich, right? Foreign interference in an election. Fuck, since when is that a big deal for the Liberals? It's been fucking 5 years.
No.
Going on.
Here it is. They're saying the involvement of a non-Canadian citizen in her campaign.
Oh, God.
So, and they say that it alleges amounts to foreign interference, which happened. So, a non-Canadian citizen in her campaign. Does that mean any non-Canadian citizen that's helping any of these candidates they should also be subjected?
Where's Carney's disclosures? Yeah, these people
right.
Are full of shit. They're full of shit.
I would imagine in each of their campaigns there is a non-Canadian helping them out, because Canada, there's a ton of non-Canadians in Canada, a ton of them, and I would imagine one of them would be helping them just because they like the individual, or they like the campaign, or a friend invited them, or whatever. Does that make them disqualified? No. Fuck. Okay, this country is created on immigration, and you're going to be disqualifying somebody. She's first generation, whatever the fuck.
It's an impossibly corrupt process.
That's
and it's not limited. Yeah, it's not limited to the Liberals. Like, I tweeted earlier today, Preston Brown went through the same thing. Now, mind you, the reasons for excluding him were a little different and a little more severe. I think it was like related to sexual misconduct. Make of that what you will. But the idea that
the timing of that was just,
it's unbelievable. And by the way, how come it's only candidates that seem to be gaining momentum on Twitter? I'll tell you why. Because Twitter is where the decisions are actually made, not this fake Canada polling Twitter thing, not fucking CBC, not fucking Carney's meetups where it's like everyone there has one foot in the grave and another foot on a banana peel. They're fucking all 80 years old.
Do you remember the
on their fucking phones?
The Rolls Royce that showed up?
Yeah, like come on. Like
what that reminded me of? Major League, when Wesley Snipes, Willie Mays Hayes showed up with his right. That's what it reminded me of.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Like Carney is a joke, man. He's a joke. And I don't often use language that pointed on people who are not in elected office, because they're private citizens at the end of the day. Carney's a private citizen, but he's put himself in the crosshairs here for me. And the reason that I think it's important to speak on the nonsense is because this guy is claiming to be an outsider when he's been the governor of 2 G7 central banks, claiming to be an outsider when he's negotiated, navigated, and consulted for all economic policies of the Trudeau Liberals over the last 10 years. He's claiming to be an outsider when he's got pictures with Jeffrey fucking Epstein, claiming to be an outsider. And now you got this guy talking about how he's going to come up with 2 separate budgets, one that can be balanced to one that shouldn't have to be. I'm going to make a video on this, like I mentioned. I'm going to start a short video series on this channel. I'm announcing that right now, so I'm accountable for it, called More on Economics. And sometimes it's going to be called Moron Economics. This is probably the latter, because the idea that you can balance half the budget and claim it's balanced and then say shit like, oh, we're investing with the other side. Well, I don't know. I just looked at the Canadian, what's the USA equivalent up here? We talked about it before.
Is it foreign affairs?
Whatever it is.
Global affairs.
Yeah. The global affairs balance sheet and expenditures. Like, come on. The idea that one of these things being balanced is equivalent to a balanced budget and fiscal responsibility and prudence is laughable. And
in an environment, you have this fucking tariff dangling over our head.
These people,
and if this is ever executed, you don't think the Canadian economy is going to get fucking wrecked?
Don't give a shit. And I'm gonna play something for you here too, okay? Because like Carney and CBC and CTV and all these stupid fucking news agencies. Again, like I'm trying not to get worked up, but it's fucking hard not to, because all these news agencies claiming to be impartial are running story after story about Canadians want Elon Musk's fucking citizenship revoked. Canadians want they want Tesla's banned. They want liquor off of shelves. They want this. They want that. Canadians don't want any of this stuff. When all this is happening, by the way, you know, and these guys are glazing up, jerking off, Marky Mark, what's actually going on? Well, the Bank of Canada governor is issuing yet another warning about what we should have done a year and a half ago, instead of sending a bunch of fucking money to Ukraine and worrying about how many, you know, days we need to have the Flagstaff staff over graves that no one ever found anybody in. Okay. This is what this guy's saying today about what's coming down the pipe. Now, you tell me if this sounds like a guy who's got even a fucking shred of optimism for what's coming. He is basically saying, I told you so. Good fucking luck. Let's have a listen.
Tiff Macklin.
There's no bounce back. If you introduce tariffs, the economy works less efficiently. We don't get those economies of scale. Businesses can't grow their businesses by growing their exports to the United States. So they're going to invest less. There's going to be less production. Incomes will be lower in Canada. And unless we introduce a new structural shock, some structural reform that boosts our potential output, but boosts supply, there's no bounce back. So what that means, for monetary policy, we can't change that reality. The economy is going to a permanently lower path. So the only thing we can do is we can help smooth the painful economic adjustment to tariffs. But even there, monetary policy is constrained because we have to make sure that the tariff problem doesn't become an inflation problem. So what that means is you're not looking like a COVID type response. We're going to have to proceed quite carefully. We're going to have to balance yes, there will be downward pressures on inflation from the weakness in the economy, but there's going to be also upward pressures from higher import costs, a weaker Canadian dollar, inevitable supply chain disruptions.
That's enough, Joey. He's going on and on. He's right, and the reality is there's nothing they could say that's going to change reality.
There's nothing they can do now.
No, there's stuff they could try to do, but just talking.
Not the bank. So when the premiers get together with Trudeau and say there's going to be a COVID level response to the tariffs, they're lying. When they get together and say we're going to unite and be the stronger party here, they're lying. And he's telling
they have no. It's all just talk, and you have to understand this is being done at a time, especially here in Ontario, during an election. We have the election to vote coming up this Thursday. So it's all just political theater, right? And you talked about it, and somebody just mentioned in the chat, Canada is giving I just want to just reiterate
$5 billion. Yeah.
But it's more than just that. It's more than just that. This is from seized Russian assets. So one could make an argument that really Canada is giving nothing in terms of that, but it's not totally the case. Trudeau also pledged 25 additional light armored vehicles for Ukraine, and to grant the help with energy security as Russia attacks the country's country's power grid. So 25 additional light armored vehicles, which will likely get either used up, destroyed, or whatever, and they have to be replaced. Who has to replace it? Us, through taxation and stuff like that. So that's $5 billion of Russian seized assets, plus 25 armored vehicles. The EU, which geographically is much, much closer, they should have a greater interest in the outcome of what's going on in Ukraine. And 3.5 billion euros, 3.7 billion USD was given from the EU to Ukraine. So far less than what Canada is doing. You look at this, and it's just, why are we doing this? We have problems we have to solve here. I understand there's stuff happening globally, but domestically, you open up the door and you could see trash in the streets. You could see homeless in every urban environment. What's the most important thing on people's minds these days? Is the economy. Do people have a job next week? Maybe not. These are the things that really impact. How do we deal with this? Well, let's tighten our belt. It sucks to say, but what's going on elsewhere at least right now, it's their fucking problem.
Mhm.
Let's deal with our problem. Once we create a Canada that is strong economically, then maybe we could look at the opportunities to help out people overseas. But until then, we don't have the opportunities to help them out, and then turn a blind eye to everybody over here. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. And another thing you just mentioned, you glossed on it, but we shouldn't be glossed over. The fact that people are talking about stripping the citizenship of a Canadian citizen.
Yeah.
Why? Like, when you are given citizenship, you have to do heinous acts in order to have that citizenship stripped. Has Elon Musk done whatever should be to be considered stripping a citizenship? No. People come here, they go through the process to become permanent residents and eventually get citizenship. And if you do this, you're setting a precedent that people will never want to come here, because if there's a chance you can get your citizenship stripped just because of the fuck who you're supporting politically, what's the point of coming here?
Yeah.
You're setting yourself up for failure. I wouldn't want to be from a different country, and let's pick the countries I could go to: Australia, New Zealand, Canada, United States. Why would I go to Canada and then become a citizen of that country? And if I say something wrong, potentially I got my citizenship stripped. This is fucking wrong. Nobody should be subjected to this.
Look,
the fact that there's a petition going up, people are signing this, they should get their citizenships fucking stripped. Really? Like, come on. Like, that is fucking bullshit. That drives me. And then this all started with the Ruby Dollar thing. And we can't fucking miss this thing. The rot that's over there. 2 visible minorities were kicked out. One is a sitting member of parliament. The second is a former member of parliament, each flying under the banner of the Liberal Party. Yet they can't, for whatever reason, cannot run to be leader of the party.
We know why. We know why.
I don't.
Let me go back here.
That boils my blood. This is. It's a shame to democracy when you do something like this.
I totally agree, Len. It's completely unpalatable for anyone with an IQ greater than 45. A couple things, okay? Number one, and it's mentioned in the chat here too, there's never been any intention to actually help Ukraine win this war. Someone is lining their pockets, feathering their nest. We all know this. I saw some hysterical boomer is even too kind of word. He was like a hysterical graybeard, blue plate, breakfast or dinner at 3 p.m. type on CBC, talking to Rosie Barton about how the guardrails have come off the Trump regime and the U.S. no longer cares about protecting democracy abroad. These people are truly retarded. We have never once thought that the money we gave to Ukraine was going to help them win the war. We may have thought it would help us win elections. We may have thought that it would help us enrich some of our friends. We may have thought we'd get kickbacks. We may have thought any number of things. We never thought it was going to help them win the war. No one in the first world ever thought that. Ever. That's number one. Number two, the same people calling for Elon to have his citizenship stripped, do you think they're out in arms trying to have like the Humboldt bus driver or the guys going the wrong way on the 401 who are Indian, or the Chinese guys who are walking into casinos with bags of cash? Are they clamoring as hard and as loudly for citizenship stripping in those cases? Of course not. These people are not to be taken seriously. There's no one. I actually would even venture to guess that it's the same style of person who's now like, oh, Wayne Gretzky's no longer a great Canadian because he is friends with Elon Musk or Trump. Like, these people do not represent Canada. The media does not represent Canada or Canadians. The government does not represent Canada or Canadians. And the Liberal Party does not represent Canada or Canadians. The rot is so deep at this point that the idea you can kind of cut it out and continue with the rest of the organism is wrong. Like, you need a nuclear warhead leveling of that whole institution, of the sitting parliament, of the Liberal Party, probably of the Conservative Party, for sure of the NDP. Like, the rot is too deep. Even guys like Pierre, like, God bless the guy. Maybe he's going to be a decent PM. Maybe he's not. I have no idea. He's going to get a fair shake. But, like, does anyone really think that guy's a competent politician? Anybody? He can't speak for more than 10 seconds at a time. He's only good on TikTok in 80% of the cases. his entire campaign is like one-dimensional, horse blinders, axe attacks, axe attacks, axe attacks. It's played out, man. You got a different opponent now. The game is changing all around you. There's no competent people anywhere I look on the Canadian landscape, except today, suddenly TIFF seeming to make some good points and taking the gloves off a little bit. Like, hey, we told you before that we needed to change the productivity habits of this country. You didn't listen. And now here we are a year and a half later in a circumstance that we could have told you was likely. You guys all pretended was impossible. And now you're paying the consequences. Like the idea that we have and again, when you say, yeah, we can change things, there's stuff we can do to change things. Like who is we? Who's going to do it? Like I'm apathetic and, I don't give a shit what these people want to do. I'm not going to get behind any political party. I'm not going to do boots on the ground, door knocking. I'm certainly not going to run for elected office. So who's going to do it? Competent people in this country either leave, start businesses, are apathetic, stoned on their couch, or some combination of those four things. So who's doing this? It's going to be the same types coming into power. The Karina Goals, Pierre Poilievres, the Freelands, the Carneys, like these people, they either don't get it or just hope that you don't get it. And it's like the case in every major country today. I think Trump, for all the guy's faults, he can say what he wants. You say what you want. Like, oh, I don't want a president who talks about grabbing chicks by the pussy. So fucking what? You have to take some character flaws when it comes to a guy who's that competent in the fields in which you need him to be competent. And you see the results. The U.S. is going to roll many, many countries over the next 4 years, minimum 4 years. And it's all going to be because, like you said earlier, Len, there was a time to maybe look outward if you had some pet interests or pet causes you wanted to support with taxpayer funds. But that time is not now. And he's the only guy who seems to realize it. His administration is the only administration that seems to realize it. And everyone else is just pretending that it's going to go away or it's going to stop or whatever. Like, I saw that somebody said, Zelensky said the administration, the Trump administration won't last forever. The war will outlast him. Like, bro, that war is not even going to outlast the fucking Pope at this rate. Okay.
What is the last war against Russia? That's a war of attrition. That was
they're going to win. They don't care. And people talk about Russia.
I can't think. Napoleon didn't do it.
People say, Len, like Ukraine is losing or Ukraine is winning the war. Russia lost 1 million men. Russia losing 1 million men means Russia is winning. There's no one who thinks like you always say, these wars of attrition, you need these guys to lose 1 million men for them to be considered winners. That's how they win.
If Russia loses 1 million and the other guys lose 250,000, it's a net gain for Russia.
100%.
They'll just keep sending in people.
Yeah, like they don't care.
Them. They don't fucking care. And that's the way they've always operated. You can't fucking win in a war and attrition against Russia. You always gonna fucking come out on the losing end.
Yeah.
I don't know of anybody that's won. Maybe Japan.
There's a significant issue with with politicians, the political class here and abroad, except for the United States right now, where just the people in government are just not competent. They don't care. They're just getting filthy rich. Great example. Okay. This video, did you see this video of the USAID staff leaving the building today with their stuff?
No.
There's a video going around of the USAID people and of course the media, legacy media in the States. Oh, these people are good people. They're just looking to keep their jobs, blah, blah, blah. They're not corrupt. They're not whatever. There's a woman who's leaving with a box of papers wearing a full fucking fur coat. Okay.
Is she masked too? That would be the ultimate.
No, but like Jesus Christ, man, like these guys, people are the times that we just like the era we were in is over, ladies and gentlemen. It's over. And you can keep pretending that we're going to keep fighting foreign wars and we're bound by international law and the rules-based order and rules of engagement and free trade. You're dumb. It's over. It's over. You thought it was going to go on forever, and now it's over. And you can keep whining and crying and pulling bourbon from red states off the shelf and talking about pulling Elon's fucking citizenship. It doesn't change what's happening. And you're hearing from Tiff, it's gonna fucking hurt. And you have no one to blame but
this
yourself.
Wayne Gretzky thing, incredible. They could people could turn their backs on
Who's
this guy.
who's turning their backs though? I don't know anyone who gives a shit about
Some
this.
people apparently are pissed. I don't know anybody personally.
Sixers, maybe like the people living in $1 million like no one.
This guy was a fucking quote unquote Canadian hero, right?
He's the greatest Canadian ever. He's the greatest Canadian ever.
When he put hockey on a map in Southern California. I mean, this is ancient history now and all that, but like without him going, like hockey would not be in the state it is right now. And it's not really doing that great from what I gather in the United States.
Four Nations was great, though. I'll tell you that.
They got to do more of that. But remember, even 15 years ago, there was the Olympics in Vancouver, and then they slapped Gretzky in the back of that Ford F-150 in the fucking rain to carry the torch, and he got fucking drenched in the cold. And he was a hero then too. Like we were cheering the Olympics, we were cheering Gretzky, we're cheering everything. How just because he likes Donald Trump, he goes to Mar-a-Lago, does it change anything he's done? Like fuck. Like people are happy to erase people, their accomplishments, everything they've done, just because they do
a national pastime right now.
This is fucking bullshit.
Yeah.
This bullshit happened, not too long ago too, right? I don't want to say when and where, but you can read between the lines. And we fucking hated that. We said that stuff's wrong. We're doing the same thing now, man. Like fuck. Like it drives me nuts. And I can't believe, and I keep going back to this Ruby Della. I can't fucking believe this shit happened so late in the game, just a day before.
I wonder if they're going to talk about it. I'm going to watch the debate in French. We'll practiquer un petit peu.
I'd love to know which one of the four candidates would bring it up.
That's what I want to know. Who's gonna talk about it?
Maybe a question would be proposed by the moderator.
The moderator, if the moderators are worth even an ounce of salt, they would do it. And I'm not sure that they will. CPAC, who knows, but we'll see.
Joey, I just want to bring up something else. We're talking about global
CPAC,
affairs.
by the way. I keep saying CPAC. Is that the American one or the Canadian one?
No,
what is ours called?
I believe it's a CPAC, I believe, for Canada.
Ours is CPAC? Okay.
I believe so. Could be wrong. But there's an article from the Toronto Sun. It's a very funny article. It references global affairs. And you touched upon global affairs just a second ago. And there's some interesting stuff that was spent in the past little while. They did a request for information. And they realized that it was $500,000, actually more, was spent on paintings, photos, and even Lego art. Yeah, Joey, Lego art, man.
That's cool. Lego memes underrated, by the way.
Is it? I never fucking. Anyways, this is supposed to be displayed on Canadian embassies, high commissions, consulates, and official residences throughout the world. And the way I look at it, they could have just went to a random grade 3 class in Canada and had anyone fucking do something, and it would have been probably pretty good. $25,000 was paid for a tapestry, by a Calgary-based textile artist. 25 grand for one fucking tapestry. This one seems like a lot, but in the grand scheme of things, $175 for a pencil drawing by an Inuit carver. It's actually probably going rate. Like, I'm not gonna shit on that, but the guy I'm trying to get at, they spend all this money, and it could be done easily by like any grade schoolers, and they could do it, and they would be proud to hang it up. And think about the national pride these kids, the classroom, the schools would have. They say, my work of art, or work of art from our school, is hanging in the Canadian Embassy in fucking New Delhi, or you name your fucking, like, that's the kind of shit you could do. And what's the price? Free. What do you get out of it? A lot of nationalism and just boosting up the pride of the country and so forth. Like, that's the shit that you should be doing. They total, like, missing the mark here, in my opinion.
Okay. I want to, first of all, like, foreign affairs is out to lunch on all this spending, but I think the bigger story for me, and I'm going to tie this into something that's happening in the provinces that we often don't talk about, but came to my attention today, thanks to David Fraser, a lawyer who I follow on YouTube and on Twitter. And I think it's time to bring him on. Maybe I'll talk to him about coming on in the spring. He is a lawyer at Dal, or a professor at Dal, and a privacy/digital rights lawyer. And he notes that there's starting to there's a movement kind of starting in the provinces to change the nature of the Request for Information Act that you see broadly, right? The ATIP stuff at the federal level, and each province has their own, sort of equivalent, right? And so the provinces now, I'm going to just share a screen cap of this video. And it's interesting because the provinces are starting to move on something that I think everyone should be concerned about, given the nature of the requests that have been made recently, especially by the Taxpayers Federation and by Blacklocks. I don't know if you can see this. If you're on YouTube, you can see it, but I'm just going to read something here. Right now, the way it stands for people on audio is that you can generally make any request of a provincial, federal, municipal government, and they have to give you the information you ask for, regardless of scope, regardless of date range, regardless of anything. So you can say, I want all the emails to and from this public servant, this date range, and I want it within 6 months. And they have to basically give you something. They have to respond promptly and completely are the general rules you see. So in this screenshot here, this is for Nova Scotia. You can see that the head of a public body, this is a new law they put in, the head of a public body may disregard one or more requests for access if the head is of the opinion that A, the requests are trivial, frivolous, or vexatious, B, the requests have already been provided to the applicant, or C, the requests amount to abuse of the right to make a request because they are unduly repetitive or systematic, excessively broad or incomprehensible, or otherwise not made in good faith. Whoa.
So somebody's going to have to make a decision.
Whoa.
If it's in good faith,
If something is
if
vexatious,
it's frivolous.
Len,
So
like,
that's
is Blacklocks reporting vexatious? Is it vexatious to ask what Global Affairs is spending their money on so I can tweet about it? Is that vexatious?
But you were saying that's a provincial thing. Does that apply?
But it's also in Manitoba. So you got Manitoba and Nova Scotia doing this. He mentions one or two other provinces that are going this direction. And so like,
Global Affairs is not part of it because it's a federal. I'm not trying to
realize that. But my point is that as the provinces go, and if it's successful, and by success, I mean no one pushes back on any of this, why wouldn't the federal government do the same thing after the last 6 months of getting pasted for spending, pasted for programs, pasted for waste? Why would they not do the same thing? The eyes on federal spending are going to get so hyper focused on this stuff that if they don't change the way that the information requests are processed, they're going to be inundated with requests because everyone's going to want to know what pet project people are spending on. And by the way, there's enough pet projects that every person in the country probably has some interest that they could draw upon and figure out that there's waste there. So, you know, like when you look at the laws changing in some provinces, the smaller provinces, admittedly, but over time, this will keep happening. And you're going to have problems getting information like this. You know, when we talk about stuff like global affairs spending, when we talk about stuff like Blacklocks has reported on over the last year or two, especially, this may not be long for this world because these guys are not in the business, in the mood for having their daily operations scrutinized. That's not how you pad your pockets. I'll tell you that. Scrutiny does not add to that capability. So it's going to be interesting to see what direction this goes in, but I would say this is something to keep an eye on. I know it's not exactly, aligned with the global affairs story, but the nature through like the vehicle through which you get this information is in jeopardy in a lot of places. And I bet you it happens at the federal level too, at some point.
Okay, there's a couple of beauties I got to bring up here. This Gazan families story,
Oh, God.
this Toronto Star article, it's saying that 11 families from Gaza are taking the Canadian government to court because they have been prolonging their, quote, exposure to life-threatening and inhumane conditions, end quote, by delaying application processing under a program meant to offer relief from the Israeli and Hamas conflict. So apparently these are taking too long to process. So these 11 families are deciding to take matters in their own hand by taking the Canadian government to court. And the families represent 53 people, including 27 babies and children who have applied for visas under the Temporary Resident Pathway for Palestinian Extended Family in Gaza program. Beautiful stuff. This was launched in January 2024. Talk about wetting.
How many other people are going to sue us? Can everyone just sue us then? Like, well, what's the limit here? How many other families can sue after that?
These next ones should. This is a CBC article. It talks about Ottawa has committed to resettle 4,700 Sudanese refugees.
4,700 for now, right? What's the top end? 10,000, I think I saw.
It could lead up to 10,000 total to be resettled in Canada. This is following outcry. So apparently there was some squeaky wheels, and they got the grease this time. So the federal immigration minister, Mark Miller, came out and said Canada is going to be committing to settling 4,700 refugees that are fleeing the civil war in Sudan. And the visa applications were reopened as of February 2025 for the permanent residency pathway program.
Unreal.
And yeah, so now
hopefully in his neighborhood, hopefully Mark can take him in. He's got a couple extra rooms, I'm sure. I just had to fill out my extra room form for the province, so I'm sure Mark doing the same. Maybe he can put a couple up at his place. What do you think?
Is he, because this is supposed to be settled in Quebec? Does he?
I don't give a fuck where he lives. I want him settled in his neighborhood.
His riding. I'm curious. I'm just
whatever. In his
accurate.
riding. I think enough's enough. Enough's enough. Downtown cores all over the province cannot handle 5,000, 10,000 more refugees. They just cannot do it. Enough's enough. It's got to stop.
To go back to what I was saying, remember we were talking about sending aid abroad and homeless people and blah 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 here. Like this is just going to add to the burden that's already here. Like roads are already fucking burdened. Schools. You saw the story of
BC hospitals being closed for 2 days over the weekend in Surrey. I think.
No.
Yeah, closed early. Closed at 7:00. No overnight service. Basic first aid from nurses only. Nothing else.
Wow.
Free healthcare, baby. It's free. Don't forget, when people tell you we're not going to go to the States, you know how much healthcare would cost you? At least you could buy it in the States. If you're in Surrey and something happens to you in the middle of the night and it's more than a Band-Aid, you're fucked. So
go to Burnaby or somewhere, find something else.
Have fun.
I guess we'll do this last story. This guy named Ryan Donay, he's the founder of something called Tiny Homes. He's been building these mobile home units.
Wait a minute. Is he underselling tiny homes? Like, what's he doing? He's under
not just tiny homes, they're tiny homes.
I'm starting micro tiny homes as soon as we're done here.
Well, you're in for a lot of competition because I think this guy got it covered. These are little devices, little temporary shelters that are for homeless out there. And he's sort of building these small modular homes starting last summer. In fact, he registered a nonprofit organization and it's called Tiny Homes. And these are designed with several safety features such as smoke and carbon monoxide detectors and also a fire extinguisher. Furthermore, they could be attached to the back of a bicycle and they could be transported to other locations. So easy to move around. They have safety built on. But the city of Toronto does not like it. They've been ordering him to stop installing these structures moving forward and to remove them altogether. They don't like having them put in public parks and shit like that. The homeless got to go somewhere, right? Say what you want about their.
How about to the front lines in Ukraine? We seem to be interested in sending more stuff over that direction. Why don't we try that? Well, that's harsh. I shouldn't have said that. That's harsh. But like, what the fuck are we talking about here? It's like everything we do is just laughable.
Well, Canada has said that they're considering sending troops over there to help with the peacekeeping operation.
God.
So there could be potentially peacekeeping boots in the ground in Ukraine, Canadian. So imagine that.
There's no end. There's no end to any of this, Len. We're gonna be doing this show for a decade to come at least. Like there's just no slowing down. It's just speeding up. You would think that as Bitcoin reached 100K, more and more people would be like, "Oh yeah, I just got to get the fuck out of here." We'd run out of content, but no, the content it comes fast and furious. And now, not just dumb mayors, but dumb mayors in scantily clad, outfits. It's like unbelievable. Did you see today's Hamilton City Council gave a platform to some doctor? I guarantee it's a worthless doctorate, worthless discipline, like always. Talking about how Hamilton needs to focus on destabilizing and disrupting Eurocentric parenting in schools, like as opposed to what kind of centric. What I think it just means two parents and a fucking decent place to live, as far as I can tell. Like it's just unbelievable. It's unbelievable what we give an audience to. And the guy who passes her the mic, the guy who's like, he's like, organizing, he's emceeing, whatever there's a word for this, but the camera cuts to him before it goes to the girl who's talking about this nonsense initiative. The guy's got a fucking mask on.
It's sad.
It's so great.
It really is sad because my dad's no longer here. He passed about a decade ago, and he's probably rolling in his grave, seeing what fucking happened. But my mom is still around, and she immigrated from Italy, just like my dad did. Yeah. And I always say you should go blah blah blah. She's like, I left one country. I'm not going to leave it again. But she left the country to come here, and then to see what's happening with this country. like I hope people out there are making plans moving forward.
You should be agile. Yeah.
Absolutely. And don't, when it's too late, it's too late. The best time to start doing it's like planting a tree. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second time is today. So start making plans now. Figure out where you have to go. Try getting visas, passports, shit, like anything. Because when the time is right, you don't want to be doing this fumbling along when everybody else is doing the same thing. You want to know where you want to go. You want to have knowledge of where you want to go. You want to have confidence you're going to be going somewhere and you're going to be able to live. So do what you got to do. It's so fucking sad considering what has happened in just a short period of time, and it's going to get worse.
Yeah, totally.
So you say in 10 years we'll still be for sure, but it's going to be the international.
We'll be in different locations. Yeah,
it's gonna be, that's a sad reality.
We'll buy the CBP
legitimate.
will own in the real estate portfolio for the business. We'll own a little studio we can go to somewhere nice.
We're gonna go like a common area,
Yeah,
oh,
sure. I'll meet you in the common room for the show.
So that's the reality. It's gonna be the International Bitcoiners podcast, and then sometime in the future. Really
good job
sad.
tonight, everyone. Chat as always, bang, and join the Discord. Maybe I'll post some exclusive workout content there or something. I don't know. Yeah. So look out for the interview with the Bitcoin Way on Wednesday, Tony, and then Len taking over for the interviews for a bit. But yeah, we're rolling right along here on CBP. So hang in, lots to talk about, lots to do. And until next time, friends and enemies, take care of yourself.
And don't forget to pay your rainwater tax.